Welcome to this detailed guide on reconciliation models in Odoo's accounting app. Reconciliation is an essential process in accounting that helps match financial transactions recorded in Odoo with actual bank transactions. In this video, we will break down the different types of reconciliation models, how they work, and when to use them, with real-world examples to make things easy to understand. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of how to efficiently manage reconciliation in Odoo. Let's get started. What is reconciliation in Odoo? Reconciliation in Odoo ensures that every bank transaction aligns with the financial records in your accounting system. For example, let's say your business receives a payment of $2,000 from a customer for an invoice. The bank statement shows the deposit, but in Odoo, the invoice still shows as unpaid. Through reconciliation, we link the bank statement transaction with the corresponding invoice in Odoo to confirm that the payment was received. This prevents errors, ensures accuracy, and keeps financial reports up to date. How to access reconciliation models in Odoo? To use reconciliation models in Odoo, open the accounting app, navigate to Configuration menu, and then select Reconciliation Models. You can also access them from the bank Kanban card by clicking on the Reconciliation Model option. From here, you can create and manage reconciliation models based on your business needs. Now, let's explore the three types of reconciliation models. Button to generate a counterpart entry. The button to generate counterpart entry reconciliation model in Odoo is used to automatically generate counterpart entries based on predefined conditions. This helps in simplifying the reconciliation process by avoiding manual selection of accounts for each transaction. For example, imagine you own a marketing agency and receive a monthly advertising expense of $500. Instead of manually selecting the expense account each time, you create a reconciliation model to automatically assign these payments to the correct account. Now, whenever you receive a bank statement entry labeled Google Ads payment, Odoo will automatically generate the counterpart entry. This saves time and ensures consistent and error-free reconciliations. Below is a detailed explanation of each field and type, along with real-time examples.
Name.
This is the name of the reconciliation model. It is used to identify and differentiate it from other reconciliation models in the system. For example, if a company frequently receives rent payments, they can create a reconciliation model named Office Rent Payment to handle these transactions automatically.
Type.
This defines the kind of reconciliation model being created. In this case, the type selected is Button to generate counterpart entry. This means that when reconciling bank transactions, a button will appear that allows the user to automatically create a counterpart entry. For example, a business receives bank transfers from customers for product sales. Instead of manually selecting the revenue account for each sale, they create a reconciliation model called Customer Payments with the button to generate counterpart entry type. When reconciling, they can simply click the button, and Odoo will automatically apply the correct entry.
To check.
This option is used when some information in the counterpart entry is uncertain. If enabled, the system will flag these transactions for manual review before they are finalized. For example, a company has a reconciliation model for vendor payments, but is unsure whether every transaction should be assigned to a specific expense category. By enabling to check, they can review and confirm each transaction before reconciliation. Bank transaction conditions. Journal availability. If one is selected, the reconciliation model will only be available for the bank/cash journals. These conditions determine when the reconciliation model will be applied to a bank or cash transaction. For example, a business only wants to apply a specific reconciliation model to transactions in the bank journal and not the cash journal. They select Bank Journal under Journal Availability to ensure the model only applies to bank transactions. Counterpart entries. These define the details of the counterpart entry that will be automatically generated when the reconciliation model is used. Account. This is the general ledger, G/L, account where the transaction will be recorded. For example, if a business pays monthly internet bills, they can set the counterpart entry account as utilities expense so that every time they reconcile the payment, it is automatically posted to this account. Amount type defines how the amount will be determined for the counterpart entry. Types and examples. Fixed. The write-off amount is a fixed, predefined value. For example, a company reimburses employees a fixed amount of $50 per month for mobile phone expenses. They set up a reconciliation model that automatically records $50 under employee reimbursement. Percentage of balance. The amount is calculated as a percentage of the total transaction balance. For example, a company donates 10% of its monthly revenue to charity. When reconciling revenue, a counterpart entry of 10% of the balance is automatically posted to donations expense. Percentage of statement line. The amount is calculated as a percentage of the revenue or expenditure in the statement line. For example, a restaurant pays 5% of its daily sales to a cleaning service. The reconciliation model automatically applies 5% of each sale to the cleaning service's expense account. From the label, the amount is extracted directly from the transaction label. For example, if a transaction includes a description like consulting fee, $2,000, the system will use $2,000 as the amount and apply it to the predefined counterpart account. Journal. Defines whether this reconciliation model applies to all journals or a specific one. For example, a company handles transactions in both bank journal and cash journal. They create a model for bank charges but set the journal to bank journal so that it does not apply to cash transactions. Amount. This is the amount that will be applied to the counterpart entry. For example, a business always records a monthly insurance expense of $500. They create a reconciliation model that automatically posts a $500 counterpart entry under the insurance expense account. Taxes. Defines whether any taxes should be applied when the reconciliation model is used. For example, a company pays suppliers with VAT, value-added tax. They create a reconciliation model that automatically applies a 15% VAT tax to each supplier payment. Analytic account. If a company uses analytic accounting, this field allows transactions to be assigned to specific cost centers, projects, or departments. For example, a software company wants to track expenses related to different client projects. When making payments for project-related expenses, they select the appropriate analytic account, e.g., Project Alpha, so that expenses are allocated correctly. Tax included in price. If enabled, the tax is included in the total amount rather than being calculated separately. For example, a retail store records sales that include a 10% sales tax. By enabling tax included in price, the tax is considered part of the total sale amount rather than being added separately. Journal item label. This field is automatically filled with the reconciliation model name and cannot be changed manually. For example, if a reconciliation model is named salary payments, the system will automatically set the journal item label as salary payments for all related transactions. Scenario: automating loan repayments. A business has a monthly loan repayment of $5,000, which includes a principal and an interest portion. Instead of manually recording these payments every month, they create a reconciliation model. Name: loan repayment. Type: button to generate counterpart entry. To check: disabled because the details are known. Journal availability: bank journal. Account: loan payable account. Amount type: fixed $5,000. Journal: bank journal. Taxes: not applicable. Analytic account: loan payments. Tax included in price: disabled. Journal item label: auto-filled as loan repayment. Now, whenever the company receives a bank statement with a loan repayment transaction, they simply click the reconciliation button and Odoo automatically assigns the $5,000 payment to the loan payable account without requiring manual entry. This process saves time, reduces manual errors, and ensures consistency in accounting records. Now, let's discuss second type of reconciliation model: rule to suggest a counterpart entry. The rule to suggest a counterpart entry in Odoo is a reconciliation model that helps automate the process of categorizing bank transactions by suggesting the appropriate general ledger (G/L) account. However, final validation remains manual, allowing for review before confirming the entry. For example, imagine you operate an e-commerce store and receive customer payments through Stripe. A customer makes a payment of $1,500 via Stripe for an online order. Odoo detects this transaction and applies the reconciliation rule. Based on the predefined settings, Odoo suggests linking this payment to the sales revenue account. You review the suggestion and click Validate to confirm the entry. Below is a detailed explanation of each field and type, along with real-time examples. Name. This is the name of the reconciliation model used for identification. For example, a business that frequently receives customer payments for consulting services might name the reconciliation model Customer Consulting Payments.
Type.
Defines the type of reconciliation model. Rule to suggest counterpart entry is used when transactions match predefined bank conditions and partner mapping rules. For example, a company automatically categorizes rent payments made via bank transfer. The rule is applied when the bank transaction contains office rent in the label and the system suggests posting it to the rent expense account. Auto-validate. If enabled, Odoo will automatically validate the statement line once the reconciliation model conditions are met. For example, a company receives subscription payments from clients and wants to automatically reconcile these payments with the subscription revenue account. By enabling auto-validate, transactions are recorded without manual confirmation. Bank transaction conditions. These conditions define when the reconciliation model should apply. Journal availability. If one is selected, the reconciliation model will only be available for those journals. For example, a company wants this rule to apply only to the bank journal, so they select bank journal instead of cash journal. Amount type. The amount type setting determines whether the reconciliation rule applies to transactions based on whether money is received, incoming, or paid outgoing. This helps in correctly categorizing transactions. Received. The rule applies only to money received inflows. For example, a customer makes a payment of $500 for an invoice, and the system suggests linking it to the account's receivable account.
Paid.
The rule applies only to money paid outflows. For example, you pay a vendor bill of $1,200 and the system suggests linking it to the account's payable account. Paid or received. The rule applies to both incoming and outgoing transactions. For example, the system suggests different accounts based on whether a transaction is an incoming payment, e.g., sales revenue, or an outgoing payment, e.g., office expenses. Amount condition defines a minimum, maximum, or range for transaction amounts. The reconciliation model will only be applied when the amount being lower, greater than, or between a specified amount. For example, a rule applies only to transactions above $5,000, such as loan repayments or large invoices. Label. Filter for label text that contains, does not contain, or matches the supplied regular expression. Note. Filter for note text that contains, does not contain, or matches the supplied regular expression. Transaction type. Filter for the text that contains, does not contain, or matches the supplied regular expression. Partner should be set. When enabled, you'll be able to select a partner, customer, or vendor, or partner category that must be set on the transaction for this model to apply. Counterpart entries. Account. Select the G/L account to which this partner's amounts will be written off. Amount type. Determines how the amount is calculated. Fixed. The write-off amount will only be the selected amount. For example, $100 monthly bank fee applies $100 to bank charges. Percentage of balance. The write-off amount will be a percentage of the total. For example, 10% commission fee applies 10% of the total. Percentage of statement line. This defines the percentage of the contents of expenditures/revenue of the report line. For example, 5% donation applies 5% of each transaction to charity expense. From the label will be selected when it's from the label type itself. For example, if the transaction label is service fee $200, the system uses $200. Amount. The specific amount to apply in the counterpart entry. For example, a reconciliation model for bank service charges applies a fixed $20 fee to the bank charges account.
Tax.
Defines whether a tax should be applied to the counterpart entry. For example, A company has a reconciliation model for VAT payments, which automatically applies a 15% VAT tax when reconciling supplier invoices. Analytic account allows tracking of costs and revenues for specific projects or departments. For example, a construction company assigns all supplier payments related to Project Alpha to the Project Alpha Expenses Analytic account. Tax included in price. If enabled, taxes are included in the total amount instead of being added separately. For example, a retail store applies a 10% sales tax to transactions and enables this option so that the tax is not added on top of the price. Journal item label. Autofills with the reconciliation model name cannot be changed manually. For example, if the reconciliation model is bank charges, the journal entry will have the label bank charges. Now navigate to the Partner Mapping tab. These settings help in identifying the correct partner, customer/vendor, based on the transaction description. Find text in label. Searches for specific text in the bank transaction label. To match the text at the beginning of the line, in label from the Bank Transactions Conditions tab, simply fill in your text. For example, if a company receives a bank statement entry labeled Invoice ABC 123, John Doe, and John Doe is a customer, Odoo will automatically map the transaction to John Doe. Find text in notes. Searches for specific text in the bank transaction notes. To match the text at the beginning of the line, in Note from the Bank Transactions Conditions tab, simply fill in your text. For example, if a company pays rent and the note states payment to XYZ Real Estate, the system recognizes XYZ Real Estate and maps the transaction to the correct vendor. Partner Mapping Lines defines text-based rules to automatically assign partners to transactions. To match the text at the beginning of the line, in label or note, simply fill in your text. For example, a business receives transactions labeled Payment from ABC Limited every month. They set up a mapping rule so that whenever ABC Limited appears in the label or notes, the system assigns it to the ABC Limited customer record in Odoo. Scenario: automatic vendor payment reconciliation. A business pays its internet service provider, ISP, Fastnet, every month. Instead of manually reconciling these payments, they create a rule. Name: internet bill payment. Type: rule to suggest counterpart entry. Auto-validate, enabled. Journal availability, bank journal. Amount condition, fixed at $100. Label filter, contains Fastnet. Partner should be set, enabled. Account, utilities expense, tax, 5% VAT. Analytic account, office expenses. Now, whenever the business pays $100 to Fastnet, Odoo automatically suggests the reconciliation, assigns it to the correct account, and applies the tax, saving time and reducing errors. Now it's time to discuss third type of reconciliation model. Rule to match invoices/bills. This reconciliation model is designed to automatically match incoming payments with open invoices for customers or outgoing payments with open bills for vendors. It significantly reduces manual work by identifying transactions that correspond to existing invoices or bills. For example, a car rental company issues an invoice of $750 to a client for a week-long rental. A few days later, the client transfers $750 to the company's bank account. Odoo automatically matches this payment to the open invoice. The accountant reviews and validates the match, marking the invoice as paid. Below is a detailed explanation of each field and type, along with real-time examples.
Name.
Create a name for this reconciliation model. Type. Rule to match invoices/bills. This option is used when there are bank transaction conditions along with partner mapping. Auto-validate. As this method is not very accurate due to missing information from imported bank statements, we don't recommend using auto-validate. That way, you have a chance to review matches before validating. Search month limit. Number of months in the past to consider entries from when applying this model. Matching order. Oldest first or newest first. Now navigate to Bank Transaction Conditions tab. Journal availability. If one is selected, the reconciliation model will only be available for the bank/cash journals. Amount type. Received. Only apply to amounts received.
Paid.
Only apply to amounts paid. Paid/received. Apply on both amounts paid and received. Payment tolerance. This allows Odoo to accept a small difference between the invoice amount and the actual payment received. It helps manage slight underpayments without requiring manual adjustments. For payment tolerance, there are two options. Percentage-based tolerance allows a percentage difference. Fixed amount tolerance allows a specific monetary difference. For example, a customer receives an invoice for $500, but due to bank fees, they transfer $495 instead. If the payment tolerance is set to 1%, Odoo will automatically accept the payment since the shortfall is within the allowed limit. If the payment tolerance is set to a fixed amount of $10, the system will still accept the $495 payment. However, if the shortfall exceeds the allowed tolerance, Odoo will not match the payment and will require manual reconciliation. Same currency. Ensures that the payment and the invoice are in the same currency before Odoo matches them. It prevents incorrect matches due to currency differences. For example, a company issues an invoice for 1,000 euros to a customer, but the customer mistakenly pays $1,000 US dollars instead. If the same currency option is enabled, Odoo won't match the payment since the invoice and payment currencies are different. If the option is disabled, Odoo may attempt to match the payment, but exchange rate adjustments might be needed. Match invoice or bill with. Label, note, reference. Search within the statements label to find the invoice or payment reference. Label. Contains. Odoo will search for keywords contained in the bank statement line. Not contains. Odoo will search for keywords not contained in the bank statement line. Match regular. This allows you to define your own search keyword in bank statement lines.
Note.
Contains. The proposition note must contain this string, case sensitive. Not contains. Negation of contains. Match regular. Define your own regular expression. Transaction type. Contains. Odoo will search for keywords contained in the bank statement line. Not contains. Odoo will search for keywords not contained in the bank statement line. Match regex. This allows you to define your own search keyword in bank statement lines. Partner should be set. The reconciliation model will only be applied when a customer/vendor is set. Now navigate to the Partner Mapping tab. These settings help in identifying the correct partner, customer/vendor, based on the transaction description. Find text and label. Searches for specific text in the bank transaction label. To match the text at the beginning of the line, in Label from the Bank Transactions Conditions tab, simply fill in your text. Find text in Notes. Searches for specific text in the bank transaction notes. To match the text at the beginning of the line, in Note from the Bank Transactions Conditions tab, simply fill in your text. Partner Mapping Lines. Defines text-based rules to automatically assign partners to transactions. To match the text at the beginning of the line, in Label or Note, simply fill in your text. Conclusion. Reconciliation models in Odoo simplify and automate the process of matching bank transactions with corresponding accounting records. By using different reconciliation models, button to generate counterpart entry, rule to suggest counterpart entry, and rule to match invoices/bills, businesses can efficiently manage their financial transactions with minimal manual effort. Each model serves a specific purpose. Button to generate counterpart entry allows for quick manual reconciliation by applying predefined rules. Rule to suggest counterpart entry automates account suggestions based on transaction details while still requiring manual validation. Rule to match invoices or bills fully automates the process by linking payments to existing invoices or bills. I hope you all have a clear understanding of the concepts covered in this video. If you have any questions or queries, feel free to leave a comment below. For more support, please subscribe, share, and like the video. And don't forget to click the bell icon to stay updated on my latest releases.